What do the very, very best business people do to get incredible sales results and incredible business results? I launched a series a year or so back called the 7-Figure Club, and it was my interest to really understand how the very, very best business people achieve incredible results that enable them to sell their business and go on and become not just very successful and multimillionaires, but achieve the business dreams they have. This series is all about getting inside the mind of the people that have done incredible things. And there's no one more incredible than Mike Clare, who sold Dreams, the bed superstore that you'd have all seen all over the country for some £200 million a number of years ago. I had the privilege of being able to interview Mike to be able to understand what prompted him to get such incredible results as part of my 7-Figure Club offering. And you're going to get the chance in this video to hear the interview I had with Mike on what he had to say. And I can assure you it's gold dust in terms of how you and what you need to do in order to build a business that you can then scale and then sell for such a vast sum. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Let's listen to what Mike Clare, the founder and the guy that sold Dreams for £200 million did to build a business of that success. I know it's going to be valuable for you, and I know it's going to help you get the results you want. So the introduction for this podcast is one that gives me great pleasure, really, because I had the opportunity a couple of weeks ago to meet this man who basically has sold a global national brand for a significant amount of money. So £220 million is what Mike Clare sold Dreams for. And I was very lucky to get the chance to talk to him about what he did to build Dreams up, some of the business experiences he's learned, one of the key elements around how to recruit the right people. So much great wisdom and advice was shared to me by Mike in the time that we had. So without further ado, I'm going to basically introduce you to a fantastic podcast, a really, really valuable listen for anyone that wants to know how to grow a business and really have some major, major big dreams about what you want to achieve in the future. There's no better person to listen to than Mike Clare, the guy who founded Dreams, the bed superstore. And I'm sure you'll find what Mike has to say incredibly valuable. So here's the podcast. Thank you, Mike, for inviting me into your office.
It's a pleasure. Yeah, good to see you.
Great. Well, as I say, I mean, in terms of the 7-Figure Club, what we try and do is we try and help entrepreneurs that are going through what you went when you started your business and sort of give them the tips and hints and how to do things, you know, and grow their business to how you grew yours. I mean, tell a bit about your background and how you sort of started, because obviously you were known, and you've known from sort of building Dreams up from nothing to selling it. How did all that start?
Well, when I'd always wanted, wasn't called entrepreneurs then because I'm old enough to be you were a businessman or had you self-employed or something, but someone I think in the 90s or something kept referring to people who have their own businesses as entrepreneurs. But no, when I was at school, I used to buy and sell things. I'd buy and sell bikes. I'd buy and sell all sorts of things. I have a famous incident where my mum used to run a shop. So both my mum and my dad had their own business. My dad had a printing business. My mum had a stationery business. Yeah. And they had a cash and carry card, sort of for the book of cash and carry. And I'd borrow it and go and get stuff. And I'd just sort of... Well, actually, I hadn't passed my test. I was 16. I was still at High Wycombe College, and I used to buy condoms. And I used to buy gross, that's 144 condoms, and I would sell them individually for twice the price I bought them for. So I had 100% margin, and that was really cool. I sold them at my locker at the High Wycombe College. So if there's any of them that are my age might remember, I was the condom man. I would supply them.
What made you get into condoms at that age?
Well, just because people were too embarrassed. It wasn't. They didn't have machines then, really, so much, and it was something you could supply. It wasn't illegal. But it was a little bit naughty, but I used to know what everyone was up to. But
what a great environment to get into to think like that.
But I would buy things. I used to buy and sell tents, frame tents, and I would know the price of a frame tent and different types and things. And once I bought a whole... There was a company on the south of France that had frame tents, and they changed them every 3 years. And they'd had these frame tents up for 3 years. They're all faded and worn out. But anyway, I bought the lot of them and delivered to my home in a coach. And I shoved them all in a couple of spare bedrooms. And then I sold them, the Buxton Press, individually, like as if there's one frame tent for sale. Actually, I had loads, and I would get one out, and there'd be a stain on it. People would want me to erect it, and they were all the same, but every time I didn't know there was an individual frame tent, so they'd have a stain on it, and I'd make up a story about, that's why I spilt my soup on it, or whatever. And And it was fine until the last frame tent, and it didn't have enough poles, and I'd always be borrowing one from another. But no,
you were an entrepreneur.
I was an entrepreneur, absolutely.
From
and then I wanted to start loads of businesses. I started Dreams when I was 30, but a lot of people think, well, that was really successful. But what I don't mention to a lot of people is that I did try lots of sort of business ideas that never really got off the ground. But they were what I call bedroom ideas. And I'd do logos and have a little plan. And I wouldn't even go to the bank and present them. They were things that I would sort of think about and try and never really get off the ground.
But it's interesting you mentioned that, because a lot, I read the story about the Honda and one of the guys from PayPal that started businesses, and the first ones don't always get success.
No, that's
a lot
right.
of entrepreneurs sort of get worried by that. But actually, what you've just said then is sometimes you will go through failure before we, or not failure, but not success.
Dreams was the first business that I really fully committed to, because I honestly believe that sometimes I'd spend all my 20s sort of fiddling about wanting to start a business but never really committed, because I didn't dare leave my job and actually.
And what
commit.
were you doing at the time then as a job?
Well, I was selling office furniture, particularly. I'd worked originally in the High Wycombe and got a job in Martin's Furniture, and I was in charge of the bed department when I was 21. So I always knew about furniture and beds. And but then I'd moved on and started selling office furniture and for other people up in London and things. But I'd always wanted my own business. Then I could sort of come back to beds, because I sort of think it was an easy commodity. Everyone needs one and that sort of thing. And then you have to make that big commitment. And when you've got a mortgage, and I was married. My wife was pregnant with our first child. It's a big commitment to leave your job and actually say this is it. And I thought, well, I keep going to thinking about. I nearly said dreaming, but I don't want to use that as a pun. But I'd always wanted to start my business, and you got to make a commitment, and that gets you up. So when you know that you haven't got an income coming at the end of the month, and you've got a mortgage, and you've started this business, and you've sort of jumped off the cliff, so to speak, you've got to get up at 7 o'clock on a Sunday morning and do some paperwork or something. You can't not do it, because everything's on the line. And if something isn't on the line, sometimes you sort of give up and do things a bit half-hearted and say, oh, it didn't work. You blame someone else, but actually it's because you didn't put your all into it. But if you risk everything, you put your all into it.
And when you mentioned that you sort of made that final jump, was there anything you just sort of made you think, no, I've got to do this? Just something, was there an instinct inside?
I was driven by, basically, I think everyone's got something within them that wants to start their own business. So people often, I've got this thing about teachers or even parents or someone tells someone that you're a bit of a loser, you're not going to make it, and something clicks inside someone, and they I'm going to show them, and they're passionately driven to want to succeed, and not necessarily just to start a business to make loads of money, but to actually to prove themselves that they are not a failure of whatever. And someone's told them at some point in their life that they're a failure. And no one told me I was a failure, but my brother was very academically clever, went to Cambridge University and got like 6 A-level, went to grammar school at Wycombe and all this sort of stuff. And I was okay. I wasn't a thicko, but I was an average. And I didn't go to university, and I was always competing against my brother. The only things I could beat him at were Monopoly and table tennis, and we used to play a lot of that. So he was 2 years older than me, and he was my driving force. So I think most entrepreneurs have got a driving force to want to better themselves and to be successful.
And you're quite right. I mean, we talked. That's a great story to start. And you talked about you started Dreams and you made that commitment. I mean, obviously if you look back when you started Dreams to sort of what it turned into, did you ever look back sometimes and think, wow, I've built it. Wow.
No, I know it sounds a bit sort of cliche. No, I did honestly think that. I never wanted to run 2 or 3 bed shops. Right. And I never just wanted that was going to be my life and doing the selling. And I would always imagined a chain of bed stores. Yeah. Maybe not quite as big as it got to, but I had imagined it would be like 100 stores or something. It was 200 in the end. But, I had imagined it was going to be a big chain. And that's why I wanted to commit. And my plan, I didn't really have an exact plan of how geographically I'd open stores and what distribution depot I'd open and how I'd open the head office and how I'd finance it. I didn't have too much of detail, but I had detail of my first 1 or 2 stores, but I just knew that my ambition was to grow it. And that's why I called it Dreams, because my accountant said, don't call it Dreams because no one knows, it's a stupid name. Yeah, he said no one knows. That's before Next or before, you had one name sort of things. And he said you could be called the Clare Business Bed Centre or Uxbridge, which is where we started, the Uxbridge Bed Centre or something. It's because it says what you do. Dreams doesn't say what you do. But anyway,
well, it's already you say Dreams, but actually you talk to a lot of marketing people and brand experts. That actually it says everything what you do. Actually.
No, exactly.
Because actually the whole idea of Dreams is actually giving people this peaceful night's sleep that they can go in and do. And I guess that sort of fits so well with the brand, doesn't it? And what you actually create.
That's why you shouldn't ask accountants about marketing things.
So when you were building the business, you obviously, when we met at the event a couple of weeks ago, you talked about some of the, the fun, and you sort of came across it as, or you described it in a way that was sort of, some issues that you occurred, and you sort of seem to have this idea of actually you just dealt with things as they happened, and I guess that's...
There were a lot of problems, and because you look at the beginning, and over 21 years, started with one shop, ended with 200 stores, sold it for shed loads of money, and it just seemed an easy, successful thing. And I like to pretend it was, but actually, if you sort of drill down into my diaries over those 21 years, at any month or any week, there were always a series of problems. And sometimes things went well, but quite often there were issues with staff or with planning or with shops or training standards. We used to talk before we could trade on a Sunday, and all sorts of bloody problems we would have, and things that you couldn't sort of imagine would be there that they don't tell you about in business books. But I think it's just about being relentless and determined, and sort of assessing each problem. And you don't always get them right, but try and accept that all your competitors got the same problem. Well, they've got the same problems, but they will have problems. They might be different ones, but you can't really be in business and not have problems. So I think it's how you deal with problems is...
And when you were growing the business, was there sort of 2 or 3 things that you religiously did each week or each day or each month that were things that you sort of call as your core to making the business successful? Because, is that a lot of times people talk around sort of, their numbers or the pipeline or the forecast in the business. Was there anything in particular that you thought, right, actually, these things were really critical to me in sort of growing the business from where it was to where it finished?
Yeah, I a great believer in, everyone's got strengths in certain things, and maybe you can't be an all-rounder. Somebody sort of average at everything, but, I love the buying, the selling, the negotiating. I like the property side and choosing the position for our stores, and I love the marketing. I wasn't into the IT side, and I wasn't into the finance. I wasn't into the distribution and logistics. And we had lots of different departments, customer service department or this or that. So, my time was mostly spent what I thought I was good at. And the things that I wasn't so good at, I would make sure I had a really good director or head of that department, so that, that would, I'd have a basic understanding of it. But
bring other people in who, as they all say, bring other people with expertise in to help you that is in an area that's not your area of speciality.
No, that's right. But some people sort of stress and want to be
everything.
And you can't be. You just, some people might be really good at finance and IT or something and not be good at marketing things. So you need a good marketing person. But obviously, it's sort of the opposite way around.
And you've obviously brought a number of people into the business and had to get it ready. Was there anything that you used as sort of like, again, key criteria, key things you use when you hired people? Because most businesses will say to find brilliant people is a real challenge sometimes, isn't it?
I think it's all to do with interviewing, and when people get interviewed, they have a mask on. Metaphorically, they have a mask on, and they try and portray themselves in a certain way, and maybe that isn't how they are in reality. And they've got a really polished CV that they've sent away to be rewritten or something. But in the end, I don't even like CV, so I make people handwrite an old-fashioned application form in my format. On there, it asks some weird questions like, what would you do if you won £50,000 on the lottery?
Really?
And what's your favourite TV programme? And where did you last go on holiday? And what annoys you? And, it's not like, what's your strengths and weaknesses? But they're questions, and everyone has to answer those. So it doesn't matter. In the whole company, everyone had to do them. So we had 2,000 staff, everyone, a director, a van driver, whatever. So they would answer those. And to me, it was just my way. It's not a psychometric test, but of getting rid of the box standard interviewing process and CV, and trying to get behind that mask and work at what makes people tick. And I'd always say that some people are motivated by different things. Some people it's money, some people it's job title or flexible hours or whatever, or they've been made redundant 2 or 3 times, so they're worried about the company's security and, are you growing or are you going to go bust or something. But people are worried and work for certain particular reasons, and it's fine to find out what that is. So when our biggest day was the Saturdays. It was really important. Everyone had to work on a Saturday. So you say to a potential salesman, are you okay about working on Saturday? They're at an interview, they say yes. So it's a pointless question because they're going to lie to you, most likely. And they might go sick on a Saturday or something if they follow a football match. So I would say, do you follow football? And they go, yeah. And I open into that, and they say, oh, yeah, are you a season ticket? Yeah, I'm a season ticket holder of this, that, and the other. And you think,
you can't work on Saturday.
Yeah, that's right. But I wouldn't ask them, do you work on it? Do you want to work? So it's just a matter of getting around. And I'd ask them things, I put them under a huge amount of pressure. Not nastily, but because in business, you're under pressure sometimes. There's got a time deadline or whatever, and it's no good them feeling all confident and cocky at an interview. I would put them under pressure. And if they weren't under pressure, I'd put them more and more. I would ask them weird questions. questions. You know,
to find out who they are, because I guess I think it was yourself or Nick that said when we were at the event a couple of weeks ago, that said he likes taking people out for dinner in the evening to try and understand the
more senior people. We would take them and their wife. So my wife and I, and quite often my HR or my managing director when we got larger, if it's a senior position, we would take them out to a restaurant with their wife, and quite often the wife. So my wife would talk to their wife and they'll chat about, and it's all about, oh yeah, how are your kids, and what school do you go to, where do you go on holiday, and all of that. And you'd get more information from the wife, but my wife would come back, oh, did you realise that, you know, like there's some bit of nugget of information, whatever, rather than the guy who's got his defences up and is even on guard, even after a couple of glasses of wine. But you can't do that with all levels, but no, it's so important you employ the right people. So I always have this thing about a cap and drugs. So I'd say you can't always employ someone with a cap on the head, which is common sense, attitude and personality. So basically, if you're going to employ, I don't know, a receptionist, or you're going to employ a person to work in the finance department or something, then you assume they can do that job. You have to test that they can do that job, or that they want to do that job, or they're capable. But apart from that, what's their personality like? Are they smiley people? So in my life, everyone it falls into two camps. They're either radiators or drains. So drains are dirty, smelly, negative, moaning people, and radiators are happy, warm, smiley people. And in the end, you've just got to think, well, are they, you know, a radiator or a drain? And maybe a little bit in between, but you want happy people, because if, you know, everyone enjoys their job, there's a great atmosphere and the morale's good and things like that. If you get negative people, they infect other people.
You are going to like this, or you won't like this now, because I actually bought 2 beds in my life from Dreams. One, I think when you still owned it, and one when I think when you'd sold it. So actually the fact that it lasted too long was probably the thing. And the one thing that impressed me was about the actual friendliness, the engagement of the salespeople involved. I actually found them very engaging. And yet actually it's quite interesting when you go to a few big, larger stores nowadays, the role of sales is a really strange one, isn't it? So how did you, because actually people sometimes don't like being approached by people, but on the other hand, to know someone's there to answer questions, how did you sort of engage, you know, help the salespeople sell? Because if you didn't sell, you wouldn't get obviously the business.
I mean, the early days, you know, you'd lead by example. I'd get involved with things. We'd write training manuals and we'd do our own little courses. Latterly, you know, we had training companies come in, and with professional companies. In fact, my son used to work for me doing all the training. We had everyone before they worked for us in a store. They would go to a residential training sort of centre and for 2 or 3 days and really go through quite an intensive training thing, whereas before they were allowed sort of to talk to customers on the shop floor. But no, we would have all of that about how to approach a customer, how to, you know, sort of sell add-ons and, you know, more drawers, a larger bed, duvet, pillows, you know, and how to do all that. And yeah, when you go into a store, it's a bit intimidating. Big bed shop, it's a bit weird, you know. It's quite often a load of blokes in there, and a woman goes in or whatever, you know. How, you know, they don't know anything about beds. You can't even see inside them. They haven't got a zip. What's all's inside? It's all a bit of a mystery. So, you know, we try and make it easy, and we're happy and polite and encourage people to lay on the beds. That's what they're there for.
I was going to say, because one of the things that, you know, is that one of the, you know, I remember reading, he was an advert or seeing someone actually go, try it. And everyone's like, you know, it's this British thing, isn't it? To not want to, you don't want to jump onto the bed because you're worried about whether you might mark it or stuff. But the idea is, I think, go on, jump on it, try it. It's a great idea, and it makes the customer feel comfortable. And,
it's what we would sort of encourage the salesman to lay on a bed, because actually the salesman lays on a bed, but obviously stupidly because he's not buying it. But it just encourages the customer to do it, and they say, well, it's quite sort of normally acceptable. And just getting the customer to open up and speak. That's the main thing with any salespeople. It's actually getting the customer talking about what they want. And the salesman's got 2 ears and 1 mouth, and, you know, he doesn't want to keep talking. He's got to listen to what those customer needs are. And you know, we would always, you know, people are going in, and the customers, I always have this thing where if you go into a store, most of us now, if you go into a closed store or anything, the salesman says, "Can I help you?" You sort of think, well, a terrible question to ask, but they do always ask it. They say, "Can I help you?" And the customer says, "No, it's okay, I'm just looking." So you sort of think, well, in the end of the day, the salesman we train, don't say, "Can I help you?" because that's a closed question and they're going to say no. So don't say that. Say something else. Say, "Oh, it's a lovely day today," or like, and that. But in the end, they don't. So you're trained to do that, and then secretly, when you're not there, you get feedback that they say, "Can I help you?" And then you go into other stores that must know this, big multinational chains, and the salesman saying, "Can I help you?" You think, well, maybe they feel comfortable saying that. And sometimes salesmen won't get off the chair and go and talk to the customer because they're so frightened that they've got to say this clever thing that we've trained them to say, which is not natural for them. They get nervous. But actually, if you allow them to say, "Can I help you?" which is what they're not going to say, but they feel comfortable saying it, and the customer in their sort of natural way like to say, can I help you? Because it makes them feel superior. Let them say that. So it's like a greeting. It's like saying, oh, hi, how are you? I don't really want to know about your athlete's foot and your bad back, but I've said, how are you? But if you start to tell me how you are, I'm not interested. But it's a ritual. I say, how are you? And you say, oh, I'm fine, thanks, how are you? But it doesn't mean we're fine. It's just a ritual. So the ritual in the store is, can I help you? The customer says, no, it's okay, I'm just looking. Ritual over. Then the salesman sort of ignores the fact that they said they're just looking and say, oh, by the way, the bunk beds are over there and we've got a sale at the moment. What sort of bed have you got at the moment? And they just and the customer's happy that they've gone through that ritual and you can get onto something else.
It's very, it's brilliant hearing talking about these sort of things. And I heard a talk from a guy, John Timpson, who runs the Timpson.
Yeah, I know him well.
Oh,
His son or his father.
Well, his son runs the business, but John gave a presentation. He said that his business only had 2 rules ever that he'd always say to his, because he brings a lot of ex-convicts as staff, which is fantastic, I think. He said that there was 2 rules: the customer's always right, and the money always goes in the till, which I thought was brilliant as a business sort of overview. Was there anything you used to sort of tell your staff that was you? Because, like you say, when you're in a retail environment, it's you've got lots of different types of people coming in. Was there any got a couple of mantras you used to give the staff in general?
Oh, there were loads really. It all depends on different departments, but it was all about courtesy to the customer and reasonableness and common sense. And so we would treat the staff with respect, and we'd expect them in turn to keep the customer with respect and be fair. And to bear in mind that we've got to make a profit at the end of the day, and otherwise business isn't going to continue and survive. We always give loads of bonuses and commissions, so we'd give some sort of incentive to all departments, and sometimes very difficult to give incentives to head office people, but we would think of a way. We used to have something called sounds like a chocolate biscuit, but it's called Hobbs, which is head office bonus scheme. And, it would be like a John Lewis scheme. The better the company did, the better they all got something. But we do lots of little things to appreciate staff, saying thank you publicly and privately, and giving them birthday cards, because, everyone gives their staff a Christmas card, but, does their boss remember their actual birthday? And I always sort of think, you've got to be able to understand what makes that staff tick. So their immediate line manager should know, about their hobbies and their families, because everyone's got a family life, haven't they? Apart from their work life, they've got a social side somewhere. And if you understand what it is, and they like to play cricket, or they want to go fishing, or they want to do that, and what it is, you can understand, and there can be a bit of give and take in the relationship.
And it's really important you mention that, because actually what you've just described then is one of the things I've talked to a lot of business people and uber successful people like yourself, said it's about people. At the end of the day, it's about understanding people, isn't it? Both at the customer side, but also at your staff side, and those 2 elements. And from what you said, and from some of the things, people were key to what you did.
No, very, very much so. It's and it's about being happy and going in with a smile on your face, even if you've got a headache and you're feeling a bit down. You've got to go in. If you've got loads of staff, they look at you, they can suss your mood straight away.
And was there, when you were running the business, and you mentioned you had an accountant and people that you worked with, and was there anything that you look back after and thought, God, I wish I would have known that, I would have been able to do things in a different way, or was it just a case of sometimes there are things you just have to go through when you're building a business?
Yeah, I think everyone talks about learning by the mistakes and problems, but there were some bad times. I think in the 90s we went through a bit of a lull where things went right, but. And it's a matter of not expanding too fast. There's a big temptation once we got the model right to roll out too many stores too quickly, and that would have been a problem, which happened after I sold the business, to be honest. They just went a bit mad opening too many stores and caused a bit of a problem. But there were lots of things. When you look back and you've been successful in that business, I've not been successful since Dreams, so, but that Dreams run was really successful. So you sort of think, well, no, I wouldn't have done anything different, but actually there were some things that I shouldn't have done. People always sometimes ask me, what was your biggest mistake you've ever made? And after we had about 10 stores, I wanted to buy a grandfather clock, personally myself, at home. If you think, where'd you go for a grandfather clock? Well, you can go to John Lewis and they have a couple of new ones. But I still didn't antique one. They had one there, one there. There wasn't anywhere. And I had our first store that we opened for Dreams that was too small. And we were about to let it and sell it, or to sell the lease. And I thought, I'm going to buy some grandfather clocks and put them in there. And I started the Grandfather Clock Emporium. and it had about like 60 or 70 grandfather clocks. And people would come from all over the country because we had the largest selection of grandfather clocks ever. And it was like, because I had the sales per square foot, and actually grandfather clock, you'd cost £2,000 or £3,000, but it only took about a square foot. So actually, I had quite a lot of them, and my sales per square foot were really good. And it was not a busy thing. You don't have lots of customer flow, but when people did come in, you had a better selection than anyone else. And I thought it was a cool thing. And then we opened something called the Clock Emporium in Tottenham Court Road, which was cuckoo clocks and alarm clocks and every sort of clock. And there was the gift market, which I didn't really know. And we got to 3 clock shops, and I was still doing all my dream stores, and that was going well. And then I was doing all these clocks, and then they won't really make money, but they're breaking even. And it was taking all my time. Do you get it? Time. So in the end, we ditched the idea because I was making more money doing beds, but I thought I was so clever that I could do clocks as well as beds, because it was a bit of a weird nichey thing to do. No one else was doing it. And I thought, well, everyone's got a load of clocks in the house. And most people had about 5 or 6 clocks in the house. So we said, well, there's a market for clocks. Why don't you just specialise in clocks? Yeah. But no, so I closed that. So I wish I'd never done that. But in the end, I learned not to diversify. So in the end, for the next, I don't know, that was after 4 or 5 years, for the next 15 years, I never diversified. Just stuck to beds.
And it's a really great point you make, because actually talking about focus and niche, and when we were at the Oxford event, Nick focused on pork scratchings and whatever else, and actually focusing on beds and so many businesses, and I speak to so many small businesses who basically say, oh, we cover the whole of that market and the whole of this space, and I guess you're going to tell me that it's being greedy,
and trying to do lots of other things, and that's you're best to specialise niche, do this sort of thing, and have some add-ons. So we would sell all sorts of sort of
bedroom accessories or whatever.
Yeah, that's right. And
but
actually got the bedroom furniture.
You were focusing on the idea of beds rather than
that's it. We were the bed specialist.
And tell me, obviously, you built the business up, and there's some amazing things you've talked about there. But tell me a little bit about the process when it came to actually selling it. Did you go looking for a buyer, or did a buyer approach you? Can I ask?
Well, basically, my wife would wanted me to sell the business for the last 20 years. Practically every year, she wanted me to sell the business. But and as we were growing, but in the end, we sort of resisted, and it was doing well. And I said,
because it was I guess you owned it privately.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So. We owned all the shares. I used to say I owned all the shares, but I didn't. I didn't own all the shares. My wife had 5%. I had 95%. Yeah, that's a weak moment I don't like to talk about. But anyway, no, I'm only joking. But between us, we owned 100%, and then we sold the business. I said in 2008, and that was a year before we decided we'll just tentatively start to inquire how you sell a business, because I've never sold a business.
That process of going through it.
Well, I thought, well, I've got to ask my accountant, but you don't. You need financial advisors that are big city people and KPMG or Deloitte or something. You don't use your local accountant, and you don't lose your local solicitor. You've got to go and get corporate lawyers up in London that charge huge amounts of money.
And how did you find that whole sort of process? Was it quite interesting, or was it
I found the basically, I call them I used to relate everything to selling a house. So I found the estate agents, which are called corporate financial advisors, and they seemed really good, but I wanted to give them an incentive for the more they sold the business for, the more they'd get. So I need to write this sort of quite legal ratchet of the base amount of money that I'd get, and then the more they got to really incentivise them. But I didn't know how to write that agreement with the corporate financial advisors. So I realised I needed my corporate lawyers before my corporate finance. So I put them on hold before appointing them. Desperately went out to try and find corporate lawyers that would in the city that knew how to buy and sell businesses and things like that. I didn't know any. So our director sat down with a piece of paper. We printed out the top 20 corporate lawyers in the city. Went down and said, ever heard of any of these? So we go, I've heard of them. Well, why do you know? I don't know. They sued us once, or I sued them, or we just heard of them, read about them in the paper. So we had about 5 that we knew. So we said, we'll go and see the ones we know, which you didn't really know. So we made an appointment to go and see them, went to see them. And my finance director and I had a list of questions. And this was over 2 days in the city, going about in black cabs. And we asked each of these people. They were really excited to help sell us. It was Dreams of Sale.
It was a well-known brand, isn't it?
Yeah, confidential, but And they, we said, one is how much you're going to charge, and how would you go through the process, and how would you help us, and what would you advise us? And they told us all this stuff. And I said, and if we don't appoint you, it was my finance director's actual question. Always at the end, he said, if we don't appoint you, who else would you suggest we talk to? And they all suggested. Well, out of the 5, 4 suggested a company that we'd never heard of that was quite low down on the list, but we'd never heard of them. But they always suggest go to that one. So we said, we'll have to go to that one. So we went to that, and that's where we appointed. So and we got them, and then they helped us write the ratchet for the corporate financial advisors, which really worked well. And we went from there.
It's interesting because, as you saw, I have a model called TrackFair, which I use, which is the foundations for success. And one of the things is the art final I was recommending. It's interesting that those 4 lawyers are all recommending this one person.
I know, but that's stupid.
Being recommended,
really.
but being recommended.
But they're being honest.
Yeah,
they're
exactly.
actually sort of thinking, and they, they were sort of not the question they'd expect. But it was like going into I used to call it like going into the Lion's Den. It was a whole different speak and world and type of thing and just all their ways of dealing with it. And you've got to run your business at the same time. Yeah. So it took about a year to sell, 9 months actually. But during that time, everyone's looking at your business week by week saying, well, how are you doing? Is there a dip? Is it lulling? Is it not doing very well? So you've got to sort of spin the plates. You've got to spin the business. Business got to really be doing well as you're selling it because people are looking for the future projections. But you've also got to spend half your bloody time in the city talking to all these people, working out this whole information memorandum, vendor due diligence, all this sort of bollocks that I didn't understand all this logo and how all this speak that they would talk about. But you learn and you get it right.
And it's part of life's experience, I guess, to go through this. But the moment actually sort of when it, the day, can you remember the actual day when it was physically finally done, when you actually sold it? You remember the day?
7th of March.
7th of March. And how did you feel? Because obviously the feeling of...
It's 11 p.m. at night, so, and the lights were going out in the office block at midnight, and so we did the deal at 11 o'clock. Well, it wasn't. It was their lawyers, Allen and Overy. So we were in meeting room 112. I do remember it very well. And everyone gets the champagne. All the lawyers come into one room together. There was I think 18 different lawyers in there at the time because the banks had to fund it for the private equity company, and then they had their lawyers, and then there was different shareholders of the new company, and then there was us on our side, and there was it was like massive. But everyone sort of you got to trust
like a marathon
people.
basically to get through, and
hundreds of paper, different bits of paper to sign. It's not just one or two. You go round and everyone, and I wanted a video of me signing it all, and they wouldn't allow it. They said, no, you don't do that sort of thing. And then when you've done the deal, everyone sort of opens champagne, the deal's done, someone makes a speech and say, is everyone happy? And then someone gives a gift, the lawyer gives a gift to so-and-so, someone gives a gift to something else, and then you sort of walk away, my wife and I walk out of the building, we just sort of look at each other and think, oh, wow, it's 11 o'clock at night, well, so I think we sold the business,
And of course, and that feeling of because it's well documented that you sold it for a massive amount of money. Did it make you feel, wow, I've done this? Or was because at the end of the day, a lot of times when you talk to people
no, it's a bit of a downer. It's not quite, because I was very sad because I love the business, love the people.
It's your baby.
Well, in the end, I wouldn't do an earn out, so I left. So that was on the Monday. So I then wasn't employed, and we had an embargo on telling anyone till 9 o'clock on the Monday morning. So. I had a good weekend, trust me.
I was going to say, you were able to talk about that weekend? Was it a real...
No, I did have some close friends around, we did drink a lot of Dom Perignon, but anyway. But on the Monday morning, I had to sort of deal with the press and deal with telling the staff, and the new company had to... And we did this sort of handover. And then on Tuesday, I didn't go in. So that was it. So Monday, I went in and worked all on that Monday. For free, to hand over and do all that, and that was it. There was no. The rest of my team and other directors were employed by the new private equity company, but I was the only person that sort of walked away. And on that Tuesday, it was surreal. It's like I got loads of money, but nothing to do.
I was going to say, it must be surreal, like sitting here going, but the thing that you've put your life and soul into for so many years is suddenly no longer.
But a lot of people think, oh, you must have planned for that, but it's not, because it's like selling a house. It's never done until the deal's done. So you sort of think, well, what happens if it doesn't go through? And in the end, everyone's getting jittery. The banks might not have funded it from private equity. There's lots of things could have gone wrong. So you can't sort of rely on the fact that this deal is going to go through, and then it suddenly does. Then it's all done, and you're out of it. So it was it was a funny time and quite difficult to deal with, to be honest.
Yeah, and like I say,
and with the children and friends, and everyone sort of treats you a little bit differently, and there's a lot of press, national press sort of talk about it, and you then don't know where to go with that. You start charity, do all the normal stuff, go on some lovely holidays and things. But then after you've done your holidays and done your charity stuff, then you sort of think, now what?
I was going to say, because a man like yourself who was so driven working Saturdays and Sundays and every sort of day to build your business, to suddenly be in a position of like, well, what, like you say, it's a big change. And I've talked to other entrepreneurs that have sold the business that find it, like you say, everyone says, oh, it must be amazing. And they have that feeling, like you just said, a bit of like, well, actually I was... But you've created something in Clare & Co, talking about your new company, which is incredible in terms of the venue. Tell everyone just so, because I'd like to put a thing for the bit, because it's some incredible venues that you guys have.
We just brought our unusual properties that needed doing up, and my wife and I sort of liked the idea of the refurbishment and the and we could afford to do it. So we bought castles in Scotland and a monastery in Worcestershire and a chateau in Wales and the forts in Portsmouth in the Solent, and we went about doing them up, and it was great fun, and really sort of enjoyed it, and then turned them into sort of venues for big conferences or weddings or parties and things like that. And we since they're really hotels now. So we specialise in bigger events, but actually we've turned them into more standard hotels, but in unusual venues. So
that business obviously is still you're passionate about it now because actually you're doing these things. Does it give you? When you compare that versus Dreams, is it difficult to compare, or how do the two sort of operate?
Yeah, no, it is slightly different because I had all my eggs in one basket at Dreams. If Dreams had gone wrong, then I would have lost everything. Whereas now, you sort of, it's not a hobby business, but it's it's a business that I do. That's right. Well, I don't come in every day. I come in 2 or 3 days a week now, and things like that, and I visit the venues, and it's a bit more enjoyable and not so much pressure. And I've got a great team of people that run it.
And if I said to you what's Mike Clare's big passion now in terms of what you want to make happen, because you've built this business, you've achieved so much, you've got so much knowledge, and you mentioned at the start you enjoyed passing it on and helping other people with that. Is that something that's a big passion for you to help other people?
I try and my charity, the Clare Foundation, helps other charities to become more commercial and efficient, because I sort of feel there's a lot of inefficiency and it's the opposite of entrepreneurialism within charities. Sometimes, they're a bit overly cautious and a bit laid back, and they're not very good. They're nice people, charities in general, so I shouldn't generalise because there's lots of exceptions, but in general terms, I always think the charity people, quite often volunteers or whatever, they're nice church-going people that you'd love to have as your neighbour. They're very kind, they're very honest. But they're sometimes not very good at writing a business plan or negotiating and doing some of those sort of business side. And I try and generally help charities sort of wise up a bit to some of the entrepreneurial type things that they should be doing. Because in the end, the money goes to beneficiaries, but it's still a process that they're going through. So. And
you weren't tempted to buy any sports clubs when you made your money?
No.
I was going to say, because I haven't talked whether you're a football or sports or background, but the other thing, you see a lot of very successful people that sell a business and suddenly they find half their wealth goes in a sports club. That wasn't it?
No. No, well, I've done that. I mean, Amazing Venues has been okay, and it's not been as profitable as Dreams has been, but I've enjoyed the process that I'm on at the moment. So no, we've travelled a lot. Travelling is great. Some people call it holidays. I don't like to call it holidays, but it's sort of holidays, but it's sort of travel. So.
And is there a place? While we're on that point, is there a place in the world you say to people you should go to? I mean, I'd love it anywhere you think but one of the best places you've ever been.
But sort of South Seas, sort of those sort of south of Hawaii and Bora Bora and those sort of places, all really very nice. We had beautiful time out there for about sort of 8 or 10 weeks, sailing around those islands, but. Necker Island or something like that. There's some lovely places.
You've been to Richard Branson's Island? I've got to ask you a question around that. So was that an invite? Do you know Richard well, I guess, yourself?
Well, no, he's there and he comes and has dinner with you, and he's part of your holiday, really. You've got the whole island.
So you basically get to book it.
You have the whole island, and there's about 20-odd people you can take, and, they've got about 50 staff, and, he's there. So he's pretty cool, and, he's like... encourages you to play stupid beach games, and you swim around the island with him, and he swims around every day when he's there, and it's a long way. And
what's it like? This is sorry, I mean, this is just amazing. The ability to go and say, I'm going to hire Necker Island. Did you not think when you've done it, think I've really made it? It's quite incredible to do something like that, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's lucky. I say lucky. I shouldn't say lucky because I've always said, it's hard work and an element of skill. I always say success is down to hard work and skill and luck, but not in the equal quantity. So it's much more about hard work than and being determined and persevering, as we said earlier. You need a bit of luck, but it's not all about luck.
And was there anything that he mentioned to you when you had dinner on his island that you thought, interesting thing about?
Yeah, no, he's a lovely guy. Everyone says, one of my questions, by the way, on my interview form is, who do you most admire? People put down Winston Churchill or my father or whatever, but most common people put Richard Branson. He's such a popular entrepreneur, isn't he? He is the one that everyone wants to be like, because he's a happy guy and he's fun, he's a little bit naughty, but he's very, very successful. He's a billionaire, and he started with nothing. You think, quite, he's ticked all the boxes, isn't he? He's happy and he's great and he's
down to it. But I was in an event somewhere else, and someone had asked him the same question. Actually, someone asked him what would determine to look back on your life that you've been a success, and he said something about that I've brought my children up the right way. And
Yeah.
I thought that said everything about the man, that actually wasn't worried about what he created,
No,
it was
that's
about
right.
actually the legacy. But look, mate, it's been amazing to talk to you, and I've enjoyed it. Just a couple of final things from my perspective, I know you're a busy man. I mean, in terms of, one thing that you think about the business world now when you started, is there anything you've noticed from when you started Dreams and when you saw to where the business world is now? Or do you think that the commonalities of business are the same pretty much?
Well, I just think the world is changing very fast, whether it's politics or technology or whatever. And you've got to be really fast. You've got to have some young people on board to be able to know what what's happening. Because I don't know, even 30, 50 years ago, you could be a certain trade and do that, and you could sort of near enough be certain that in your lifetime nothing will really change. There'll be the odd thing that might change, but nowadays things are moving so fast. How do you plan if you started a business now and you're going to run it? Even if you said, I'm only going to run this business for 10 years and then sell it, you sort of think, what will the world be like in 10 years? It is driverless cars. There'll be this. How is this? What's the politics? What's the shape? What? So it's a sort of bit frightening, but that means there's opportunities as well, isn't there?
Yeah,
so you've got to be adaptable to change.
Yeah, which I think is probably a key thing in business anyway. So, and the final thing for me, if you were to, if you could go back, in time and give yourself one bit of advice, what would it be?
Apart from not starting the clock shops.
I think that's a brilliant story. I love it.
But something that I've done wrong, you mean, or something that I would change.
If you could go back in time and give yourself one bit of advice, even
Just anything. I maybe wouldn't. I would have brought Dreams back again. So basically, when I sold it 5 years later, I could have brought it back for 10% of what I sold it for, and I never did because I started all these amazing venues, and I was. Shouldn't I? And I nearly did. My wife didn't want me to, but I should have brought it back again because it's now even more successful than when I'd had it. And I could have done that the second time. I would love to have done that.
So there you have it. That was the Seven Figure Club podcast, our latest edition with Mike Clare, the man who sold Dreams, the bed superstore, for 200 million odd pounds. So I hope you found that really interesting and got a lot from the interview in the same way as I did. People like Mike very kindly give up their time to share their thoughts and their experiences on how to become successful in business. And I believe that without the input from business leaders like this, the job for us all as aspiring entrepreneurs and growing businesses and business owners is much tougher. So my thanks to Mike for his commitment and time. Really appreciated it. And I hope that you as the listener have enjoyed what Mike has to say, and also listen to some of the other podcasts that we've had. We continue over the course of this series to interview business people who have been there and done it, that have actually sold their businesses and succeeded and put themselves in a position where their lives are able to be chosen and defined by them, not by other people. And I think that's the one big thing that comes to me and it becomes evident to me from all of the different podcast interviews that I've done, is how just down to earth and genuine these people are. They're not anything special in the sense of they don't pretend to do anything any different to any one of us, but what they have done is worked incredibly hard on their businesses, and they've actually been in a position where they've put themselves in control and put their own destinies in their own hands. And I guess that's what we all want to do as business owners. So I hope you've enjoyed the podcast. Once again, if you have any other thoughts on and ideas on who would be great for us to interview as part of the series, please let me know. Please put some comments under the section here, either on our YouTube channel or on our SoundCloud channel, and we'd love to approach those guys to talk about their success and how we can interview them and get the ideas from them as well. So once again, thanks very much for listening. Hope you've enjoyed the podcast, and I look forward to sharing with you very soon a new edition of the Seven Figure Club podcast.
So there you have it. How did you find the video? Wasn't it incredible to listen to what Mike's done and how he achieved what he did? If you've enjoyed this video, I'm going to share with you a number of other clips of business owners that have sold their business, become a member of the Seven Figure Club, and achieved incredible results. And it's all about, and the one thing that distinguishes all of those guys between anyone else is they all knew how to sell. They had to sell because they knew if they didn't sell their company, their product and themselves, they weren't going to achieve their results. My Seven Figure Club series is all about getting best business minds to give advice and guidance that can help you achieve the results you want. And so hopefully it's given you the insight, the thoughts and the ideas on what to do to improve in your business. If you love the video, please share it with colleagues and friends. Share the examples of these business gurus so that they can get better as well. And I look forward to sharing another 7 Figure Club video with you really soon.